Hey guys, welcome back to another analysis video on the channel. If you enjoy the video, please subscribe and leave a thumbs up below in the comments. Now today we're going to check out a miniature game from the recent Roquetas de Mar international tournament. I played this tournament myself, had a good time there, and with the white pieces we'll be featuring Grandmaster Llada or Llada, depending how you pronounce it, one of the better Chinese players who's on a streak here, winning many events in Spain. And with the black pieces, a local player, Savins Puertas Martin, from I think he's from the south of Spain, but I'm not completely sure about that. He's a candidate master, a very strong player as well. But today, unfortunately, he was on the wrong side of the game. Now, the reason I've chosen this game, apart from the fact that it's quite interesting, is that one of you guys asked for a game of the Italian opening and also an King's Indian defense game. So I decided to find some interesting games with these openings, and this is the game I've chosen from the Italian opening. Now, if you want to see your favorite opening featured here on the channel, just leave a comment below, give me your ideas, and I'll try and find miniature games with your favorite opening. It's not always going to be possible, but I always try to find some good games with the lines you guys like to play. So let's get into the game. Llada is playing with the white pieces. He opened with e4 and chose the bishop to c4 Italian opening. Now black has two main choices here. Bishop to c5 is probably the most sensible and solid one. Of course, knight to f6, the two knights defense would allow knight to g5, which is a very tricky and aggressive way to play. Also, bishop to e7 is called the Hungarian variation. Very solid, especially for kids who lose a lot of games to these knight to g5 tricks. I would definitely suggest any coaches to start off with bishop to e7, knight to f6, d6 castle, and then bishop to e6 and go from there. And at least your student is out of the opening without having faced any immediate dangers. So of course, Savins Puertas is a very good player, so he knows his theory. He goes for the main line, d6, threatening at some point to play bishop to g4. However, while white can play c3, bishop to g4 is not very dangerous because black doesn't have the follow-up knight to d4. So if, for example, after a4, which was white's move, black developed here, Llada would just have played c3, threatening b4, and then he can go with the typical move, knight to d2, h3, rook e1, knight to f1, knight to g3, pushing away the bishop with very good chances of an advantage. So Savins plays a5, which is okay, c3, and now in the next two moves, Savins had the chance to play h6. Here he could have played it, and after castle, h3. Again here he could have played it. However, I'm suspecting that Savins for this game prepared the lines where at some point he allows white to play bishop to g5, which in some cases is not so dangerous, although many years ago it was very dangerous to allow this move. But nowadays, different defenses have been found. It's not so dangerous. That's my suspicion, my opinion. If Savins sees this game, he can just leave a note below and tell us how he thought about the game. He goes bishop to b6, which is okay because he does try to anticipate d4, but maybe he could have considered playing to bishop h7 straight away. Based on the game, probably that was the best decision. So now Llada does play bishop to d5, pinning the knight, and here it would have been interesting to see against h6 what Llada would have played. I think he would probably have dropped back to e3 and at some point try to take advantage of either the weak g6 square or the slightly weakened king. But if he goes back to h4, now g5 was playable in this position. And the typical sacrifice doesn't really work if you can't get a knight to d5. or if you can't open very quickly the f-file. Of course, it's still very complicated. White has moves such as queen to g3, but according to the computer, black could end up consolidating his extra piece. I'd still be very worried here with black, but the computer seems to say that black's position is okay. Savins played bishop to e6, which I also think is fine. What he's trying to provoke is Llada capturing, which would be very bad because black would open up his f-file, and this lovely pawn center is good for black in these positions. Of course, Puertas understands this, Llada as well. Llada plays knight b to d2, queen to e7, and here bishop to d5. And in my opinion, Puertas makes his first, maybe not fatal mistake, but definitely a step in the wrong direction, leaving him with a slightly passive position. He plays knight to d8. I perfectly understand where this move is coming from. He wants to play c6, knock the bishop back, and later on maybe get his knight out to f4. If he's able to achieve this, he'll definitely be better. But in the game we'll see he won't be able to achieve it. So maybe he should have calculated that this wasn't possible. Chess is difficult, you never know what's going to happen. h6 was okay. Rook a to b8, protecting the b7 pawn, was also possible. So after knight d8, Llada played knight to c4, which is very good, preventing c6 because of the bishop hanging. And again, here, maybe bishop to a7, sacrificing the pawn on a5. But it's always difficult. When a strong player offers you a pawn, you're always thinking he's going to just capture the pawn and then win the game. But look, c6, take with the knight, sacrifice another pawn on b7, and then go knight to f4. And funnily enough, this position, with threats such as rook to b8, queen to g6, is actually quite interesting, and black does have some compensation for the two pawns. He definitely has compensation for one pawn. Not quite sure for two. But against a strong player, this is the way to go. Because now white is not in control, and if he makes a mistake, he could lose tactically. This was an interesting line for Savins. He played rook to a6, and this is, for me, a bad move. And I'm sure Savins will have understood that this is the sort of move he can't make if he wants to go towards the FIDE Master, International Master titles. You just can't leave a rook out of play on a6, trying somehow to get the bishop to a7, knock the bishop away. This is not going to work. Llada, very strong player, understands with the rook out of play, with the knight out of play, we open up the center because our pieces, his pieces, are very well placed. c6, and now intermediate move, d takes e5. And here is Puertas' final mistake. What would have been his best move here? Capture back with the pawn, swap a couple of pieces, and you are going to play with a pawn down and a worse position. But it's not the first time a player has drawn a game with a pawn down and no other weaknesses. So, although he's clearly worse and also facing some threats, this was the way to go. Rook to d8 is the next move. Rook to a8, drop back to c7, try to hold. Instead of that, he played pawn takes d5, probably based on a miscalculation. Pawn takes f6, attacking the queen, take, and now intermediate move, knight takes b6. And now, of course, if rook takes, we can just choose between pawn takes pawn, bishop to e3, or bishop to h6. All three of them are very good moves. If pawn takes bishop, here probably white would have gone knight takes pawn, already with a very, very good position. I mean, just look at that king, plus the misplaced pieces and also the extra pawn. So Savins goes pawn takes pawn, and here Llada just wraps up. He protects his bishop. This is a better piece for the attack on the king than the knight. Gets his queen out, and now he's just threatening things like bishop to h6 followed by queen to g3. So black tried to hide his king, but he's already lost. Bishop to d4, direct threat. And now check out the following maneuver, which is something you have to put in your tactical patterns as a tactical theme. Queen to g3, and now if king h8, hit on f6, king comes back, and we finish this lovely maneuver with the bishop on d4. This is a tactical pattern that is very well worth knowing, which is winning. Savins played king to h6, check, and queen to g7, threatening mate on h7 and also g4, and Savins decided to call it a day. It's funny that the final position highlights the unconnected knight and rook on a6 and d8, which were the moves that obviously Puertas will probably not play again, because he for sure will have understood how the game went and the type of moves he has to avoid in the future. Lidi played a very excellent position, and I hope that this game has given us a bit more understanding in some of the dynamics in the Italian opening. So if you enjoyed the video, please subscribe, leave a thumbs up, and share it with your friends and colleagues. And of course, as always, just enjoy from the game, try to improve, have fun, and we'll see you soon on the boards. Thanks for watching.